Good evening and welcome to the series on uprooting rejection. My name is Anthony Baxter. I'll be your host. And this week we're going to be going over chapter 5, which is talking about numbed emotions. Numbed emotions. How many of you know that as we go through severe traumas in life, we sometimes numb out. We don't feel, we have no response because we are numbed. Amen. And based upon children, because a lot of what we're talking about is keeping our children from going through maybe what we went through, preventing that generational curse of abandonment and rejection to cease. Children, when it comes to emotions, they're not matured yet. They're still children. So when they go through traumatic events, they don't know how to handle, how to deal, how to respond. They react to those type of things. And at times they just numb out when certain things continue to happen over and over and over again. So uh feeling emotionally numb can happen as a result of physical or emotional pain, physical abuse or verbal abuse. In an attempt to protect yourself from being hurt again, it's not uncommon to disconnect, detach, or numb out feelings related to the situation in which you may be dealing with. Now, over time, though, this protective shield can begin to get in the way of connecting with others and getting in touch with feelings that are both positive and are negative. Why? Because you've grown accustomed to numbing out, not feeling. And in doing such at a young age, what happens is you don't know how to deal with your emotions. You may fly off the handle or deal with things in a way that is not called for. Emotional numbness is what we're talking about today. Emotional numbness. Um, Let me see here. Now, let me ask you: have you gone through a traumatic event that what got you through? We're going to be talking a lot about these things tonight because we all have gone through traumatic events in our childhood, some in our adolescent, teenage years. Some of us may have went through a traumatic event last night or yesterday, who knows? But how did you deal with it? Did you block it out? Uh, uh, what got you through it? Or did you just go numb? Did you just go numb? See, many have faced traumatic experiences at an immature age, childhood, like myself. What did you do when your emotions cannot handle the trauma that happens? Situation as arguments, abuse, abandonment, etc. There's many other traumatic events that can take place. Breakups, husband or wife cheating on you and getting caught. These are emotional traumatic events. As a child, being molested by a family member. These are traumatic events. In my book, I wrote this. I wrote, now this book is a lot about me, about what I went through, and it was my healing. Okay, it was my healing. So I wrote this. I said, I was 8 years old when I discovered marijuana. It took my mind and emotions to another place where I felt nothing for the first time. Being sexually abused by a babysitter distorted my understanding of sex. So I used sex and anything else that would block what I was feeling within. You might use harmful drugs or overeat or become grossly overweight. Some work themselves to death, and others live their lives from an emotional place called fear, worrying and stressing over everything. The world calls it an addictive compulsive personality. I see it as crying out for help to overcome the cares of life, to overcome the cares of life. See, the pain of these things has a heart-wrenching effect on a person. Not only kids. Now, how does a child deal with trauma when they have not grown emotionally? How do they deal with it? They don't know how to respond to what they see on the outside to tell themselves to respond in this manner. Why? Because they're not mature yet. They're still growing. See, many adults run to things on the outside of them to deal with the things going on within them. And in some cases, they have been doing it all their lives because they too were traumatized as a child. See, there's many of us that have not dealt with some of the traumas that we went through as kids, and we are still reacting or responding from an immature emotional place because we don't know anything else. This is what we've done. You take individuals that have been sexually abused. You take individuals that were physically abused as children. You take individuals that were verbally abused, or maybe they seen death. Maybe they seen somebody get shot. Maybe there was a lot of arguing and fighting in the home. And for a child, they don't know how to deal with this. They don't know how to deal with this. A child that's seen a lot of fighting and arguing in the home, when they grow older, when they see altercations, they get fearful. They're those type of people that don't want to get into any altercation. They will just go ahead and agree. They will go ahead and do because they don't want to get into an altercation. Why? Because they have not dealt with the issues that they went through as a child that molded them to react in this fashion. I wrote in my book, I put somehow the pains from feeling unloved and wounded has entered an individual, drawing them to look outside themselves to fix what's happening within. That's what our youth are dealing with today. They're seeking people, places, and things to bring comfort to the trauma they are dealing with in their life. You see these young boys getting into these gangs. They're looking for something outside of themselves to make what's going on inside feel better. You find young ladies that are going to older men, or men that are saying the right things that they've been wanting to hear, and they are attaching themselves to them. They're looking for something outside to fix what's going on inside. And it's not just kids. We still have young men, we have older men, we have young girls, we have older women that are still doing that same thing. And my belief is because they have not dealt with the root cause, which was some trauma that had taken place at a younger time in life. You get people that go through things, and they try to resolve and get some closure, and they go to a person and they say, you remember 15 years ago when this happened? The first thing an individual would say is, man, that was 15 years ago. You still talking about that? You still feeling this way about that? Well, yes, I am, because it was a trauma to me. You see, people don't realize and understand that sometimes you got to go back and talk about some of that stuff with some people that you may not want to talk to about it. They're the ones that did the hurt. They're the ones that did the harm. But we have to find closure and healing to be able to move out and to move forward. That's what this book is called, Uprooting the Spirit of Abandonment and Rejection. Uprooting the Spirit of abandonment and rejection. Now, we we must understand that a lot of addictive and compulsive behaviors, I believe, stem from traumas that took place that we had no clue on how to deal with. And when we discovered, took the first hit of marijuana, the first drink, sexual act, anything that makes you feel good or better, you know, that becomes your outlet. That becomes your outlet. I was a shopaholic. I was a weedaholic. I was an alcoholic, and I was a sexaholic. Those were all of my outlets to deal with the void and the pain and the suffering that I went through inside. I looked good on the outside, but inside I was a wreck, and nobody knew it. Nobody knew it. I wrote in my book that addiction can stem from rejection and open doors to all kinds of seductions because you don't feel complete or settled within yourself. That's key. A lot of people don't feel complete or settled within themselves. They may walk around with a smile on their face. They may look good. They may have a lot of this and a lot of that. But we never know what makes a person tick. We don't know what makes a person respond and react the way that they do. We have to understand the term seduction or seduce. Seduce means to entice one into wrongful behavior. You see, uh, we're going to move to a spiritual concept. We have to realize that demonic activity is taking place upon the earth and all around us. Okay. So these seductions, these things that tell us, oh, go do this. Yeah, it's wrong, but you know what? You'll feel better. You'll feel better. Eve was told by the serpent, hey, you can eat of that fruit. It ain't going to kill you. It's just going to make you like God. And what did she do? She ate. She was seduced to do something that she knew was wrong. I think it was in chapter 2, we talked about two different type of seductions upon the earth. Receptible seduction, or excuse me, respectable seduction and irrespectable seduction. Okay, or disrespectable seduction. There's a big difference between the two. Okay, respectable seduction are those things that bring ease and comfort, but allows you to keep your dignity. Okay, like overeating, uh, watching TV all day, shopping. You see, you can keep your dignity doing all that. It may affect you in some ways. You may be broke from shopping all the time. You may get obese by eating all the time, and you may miss out on life by sitting in front of the TV all the time. Okay. You see, people overwork, overspend. These are masks that people put on because of the emptiness they feel inside. You see, we see a lot of people, a lot of people say, man, I wish I could be like, I don't want to be like nobody because we don't know what's going on. We don't know what's making them tick. We don't know what they went through. We don't know. But I know what I've been through, and I'd rather deal with my stuff than try to figure out somebody else's stuff. I don't know about you, but that's me. All right. Now, we also have another type of seduction called disrespectable seduction. Okay. It's an abnormal type of seduction. It's one of those things like sexual activity, drug use, these things that have a way of affecting your dignity and who you are. Okay, affecting your dignity and who you are. I wrote this in my book. I wrote another disrespectable seduction is abnormal sexual activity. What do I mean by abnormal? Well, God said that a man and a wife can have sex. Anything outside of that is fornication or adultery. So abnormal sexual activity. There's a lot of abnormal sexual activity taking place. We programmed to have abnormal sexual activity because we see it on TV, we hear it in the music. So if you hear it, you see it, what's going to happen? You're going to end up doing it. Look around. Babies are having babies, and the age of grandmothers that used to be around 50 years old is now 30 years old, and they're taking care of their grandchildren as well as their babies, their daughters or their sons. Okay. Then there's those men who have been labeled as sex offenders. See, a lot of these sex offenders have gone through some traumatic experiences, and their outlet is abnormal sexual behavior that has actually affected their dignity. Okay. What we're doing here is we're looking at abnormal seductions. Why? Because many of us are moving and behaving in such a way, and we don't understand why. And it may just be a seduction that has taken place from a door that was open through trauma that has you operating or behaving in such a manner. Okay. Another seduction that has taken out many young men is murder. Okay. You hear a lot about young teens and young men shooting other young men. Young women are starting to get into the shooting game now. Okay. These are seductions. Okay. I wrote this in my book. I wrote, there's a mirage of gangs throughout the United States, and they are recruiting young men seeking a sense of belonging, acceptance, and attention. A lot of these young men that are joining these gangs, they're joining because there's something that's missing, and they feel it with these individuals: love, respect, all this falseness, because it ain't real. It's not true, because there's some things you're going to have to do to keep yourself a part of this group of individuals. Okay, giving them what they're missing. The new recruits are then instructed to do crimes for the gang, such as robbery and murder. A new recruit will follow through with any order because they feel that they are finally a part of something, that they are now valuable and worth attention. You see, it's all about attention. We talked a couple, I think it was last week or the week before, we were talking about, spending quality time with your children. Just shut everything down and just give that child all of your attention, because children want attention. And the only way that you're really going to get to know your child is if you spend quality time with them. A lot of parents don't even know their kids. They don't know their personalities. They don't know what they like, what they dislike. They don't know, because they don't spend time. And in some cases, they just can't, because they're working 2 or 3 jobs just to keep food on the table. That's totally understandable. But yet and still, try to make some time to spend with your child. It's imperative. It's imperative. Now, here's another one that we don't really hear a lot about, but it's real. Witchcraft is a seduction. It's become a big one for young girls. I wrote this. I said, witchcraft is a seduction that is on the rise. Many young girls, mistreated in their homes or abandoned, have drifted into the arms of a loving woman who takes them in and supplies all their needs, then begins to mentor them in the dark arts. And with our young men, seasoned warlocks do the same thing through a false love and caring for them. You got to remember that Satan is masquerading around the earth, and he has his cronies out here trying to recruit and to do harm to God's creation, his human creation. And the thing that Satan hates the worst is a kid, a child. He wants to get into them ASAP, ASAP, as soon as they come out the womb. He wants to get in them to distract them, deter them, and to pull them away from their purpose and their destiny. And it's our job as parents to guard them from these entities and to teach them and mentor them in the right way to go and love them so that they can go out into the world and be all they were created to be. Now, the thing about abandonment that brings upon the emotion of rejection or that spirit of rejection, it also brings friends with it. Okay. Friends like overdoing things, friends like lying, greed, and denying a problem exists, and many other things. We must understand that all forms of addiction comes from the result of demonic influence. It comes from the result of some type of demonic influence. Okay. You know, there was an old saying back in the day. It says, just be yourself. Well, today, youth never really get a chance to know their true selves because they spent most of their life being something that they're not, just to be accepted, just to be accepted. You know, I recall myself growing up and just wanting to fit in, just wanting to be a part of, just wanted to be accepted. You know, you would do what you needed to do. You would act, you know, you would. And so if you spend 2, 3, 5, 10, 15 years being something that you weren't, then how are you going to be yourself? Because you don't even know yourself because you're too busy being what everybody else wants you to be. There's many individuals that are living their life as such. And as they get to a particular age, they sit down and they were like, who am I? I've been a chameleon all my life. I don't know if I'm this person or that person or the other person. So now they got to figure out and strip everything down to figure out who they were created to be. Because if you don't know who you are, you can't fulfill the purpose that was given to you because you're too busy trying to please everyone else and not the creator that created you and gave you a purpose and a plan. I want everyone to do this. Do this. Take a few minutes and just ask yourself these questions, okay? Just take a couple of minutes and ask yourself these questions. Do I know myself? I'm not talking about the self that you want everybody to know. I'm talking about the individual that you are. Who were you created to be? That person with all your flaws, all that. Do you know yourself? What is it that you hide behind? What's the mask that you put on? You see, you have some women that hide behind makeup and wigs. You have some dudes that hide behind fancy clothes and fancy cars. You have some people that hide behind their careers. What is it that you hide behind? And what is it that you use to bring ease and comfort into your life? What is it that you use? Everybody has something. It's just some things are more detrimental than others. I use marijuana and crack and sex and shopping and, you know, what did you use? Not everybody got into drugs. You know, I mean, maybe you use working out. You know, maybe you use, you know, there's many things that we can use. You know, I used to say this: water is good for you, but if you drink too much water, that's not good for you. Okay, so you know, what's that thing that you have no balance with? It's like you have no balance, and whenever you're going through something, this is what you run to. You see the TV shows of the women going through something and they go home and they go and get some bonbons and cuddle up in front of the TV and cry. A glass of bottled wine and they sit and they drink the whole bottle of wine and they get numb. That's what we're talking about, numbing ourselves, not feeling the emotion, going through the emotion and dealing with it, but zoning out, pushing it away, sticking our head in the ground and hoping when we pull it up, everything will be different. That's what we're talking about. Problem with all of these things is you can't be something you're not all the time. The true you has to appear. The true you has to appear. That's what I say, people, you get to know people and, they're always going to show you their A game. But, if you're an observer, you just observe and you'll see the true person pop up. You see that, oh, that's an angry person. They ain't what I thought they were, or they're a manipulative person, or they're a kind and sweet person. You know what I'm saying? The true person will pop up. You just have to give it some time. You got to give it some time. All right. I wrote in my book this. I said, with all its flaws and defects, the real you within will rise and get noticed by those you're trying to impress with your false personality or false spirit. So be yourself and stop hiding. You might find that the people worth having in your life prefer the real you, not the person that you want everybody to see. We all wear masks. We leave the house and we put on a mask and we come in the house and we take off the mask. And sometimes even in the house, we wear the mask because the person that's in the house with us, we really don't want them to know who we really are. Why? Because we feel if they know who we really are, they're not going to like me. So let me put on this mask that I know they like. Let me say all the right things to keep them in my life, to keep them in my life. My God. All right, y'all. It's question time. It's review time. It's review time. This chapter here was it was a little short. There's a lot more pages in the book. Go get the book. Go get the book. Just go to Amazon. Go to search and just type in Uprooting the Spirit of Rejection. And you can type in my name, Anthony Baxter, it'll pop right on up. Or go to our YouTube channel and subscribe. There's many other topics. There's many other things that we're going to be talking about to assist individuals to live a better life and be more pleasing to the man upstairs. All right. So here's the question. Did Jesus experience rejection? Did Jesus experience rejection? Now, that should be pretty simple, okay? Because if we going through it, he had to go through it. And if he went through it, why are we complaining that we going through it? We just got to learn how to respond to it. Number 2, rejection can be the root cause of various addictions. True or false? What do you think? Okay. Gangs have been successfully recruiting young men who are seeking a sense of blank and blank. Number 4, when the Spirit of the Almighty God dwells within you, his divine power will enable you to overcome the spirit of blank and blank. Now, them blank and blanks, they're in the chapter. So if you read the chapter, shouldn't be no problem in filling those out. Number 5, define the term seduce. Define the term seduce. Number 6, list at least 3 illicit activities people engage in to cope with the emptiness they feel as a result of being abandoned or rejected. Write down 3 illicit activities. And last but not least, number 7, the enemy exploits feelings of rejection and abandonment to blank. To blank. Listen, guys, we all have been through traumas in our life. We all have uh, put some people through some traumas in life. The bottom line is we must heal from these traumas and begin to transition back into the men and women that God had created us to be. Parents, we must break the cycle, begin to show our children, be with our children, spend time with our children to where that abandonment does not show up and that spirit of rejection cannot enter in. Look at our children today. I turn on the news every morning getting ready, and all I'm hearing about is shooting, cars going into buildings and looting, women being abused by men. I mean, it's just it's getting worse and worse each generation. And my belief is it's the anger that sets within, the emptiness that is within, that is charging the reaction that we're seeing. Why? Because there is an immaturity in the emotional state, not knowing how to deal with the traumatic events that they may have experienced. Next week, we're going to be on chapter 6, and we're going to be talking about words kill or give life. Words kill or give life. We as parents must understand when we are angry, we must have a hold on our emotions and speak from a place of love, not of a place of anger. I know it's a hard thing to do, but it's something that we must learn to do. Disciplining our child has to take place, but being argumentative, yelling, cursing at them, that is not what God has appointed us to do as parents and mentors for his children that he has given us. So join me next week as we go over words kill or give life. Until then, y'all have a fantastic week and know that God loves you, and so do I. Have a fantastic week. See you then.